What's going on, everyone? My name is AJ Festa. I'm a filmmaker and photographer here in Orlando, Florida, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today, as I'm sure you saw by the title, we got a new camera. So this is the new Sony A7C Mark II. All right, opening this thing up. So at the top, we just have a little bit of paperwork about the camera, nothing too special. Next in the box, we have the camera strap. It says A7CII on it right there. Let's open this up. Okay, there we have it, the Sony A7CII strap. All right, next up in the box, we have the battery. This is the newer style battery of the NPF-Z100. When it comes to this camera, it's gonna make the battery life so good. Last thing in the box is the camera itself. I went ahead and picked mine up in the silver and black colorway, as you can see here. It'll focus. This thing looks pretty sick. So the A7C II is here. If you don't know about this camera, it's basically a compact version of the A7 IV. It's got the 33 megapixel sensor. It has 4K up to 60 frames per second. The 60 frames has a crop just like the A7 IV. The A7C II has one card slot on the left side now, has a new USB-C port which allows for 4K streaming over a 5 gigabit USB-C cable, has a mic jack, a headphone jack, and a micro HDMI port as well. Now, as I said before, this version now takes the NPF-Z100 batteries, just like the rest of the newer cameras. Now, initial impressions, just looking at the camera itself, the build quality is really nice. I didn't have any experience with the A7C version 1 that came out a couple of years ago, but it definitely intrigued me. I know some of the newer things about this one over the first version is now there is a front dial, the newer style batteries, and obviously the newer sensor. One small thing about this new version from the previous version that I'm glad they improved on is they got rid of that Sony logo that was on the screen, because when you had it flipped like this, it would be upside down, which it was a little bit silly on their end. Now I'm gonna open this up so you can kind of get a look at this sensor. So I'm sure a lot of you guys clicked on this video to know why I picked this up. Let's start with aesthetics. I picked up the silver over the black because I typically would like, just like my A7S III that I'm filming on, the all black look. But I felt like for my next camera, I wanted to have a little bit of a different vibe, and I have a different use case that this will have. Now, to go into specifics about why I picked this camera up, I'm gonna go back a little bit to when I picked up the A7S III. Originally, I picked up the A7S III to be my main workhorse for video production. I had questions on why I picked up the A7S III over the FX3, and the reason I chose it over the FX3 was for the viewfinder. At the time, the A7S III would be my only camera, and I still enjoyed taking photos at times, so having the viewfinder was a big factor for me to be able to enjoy taking photos. The problem I had with having the A7S III as my only camera was that I always had it rigged up for work, so when I wanted to create personal content or take photos, I had to take apart the rig every time. Now, it might not seem like a big deal, but having that barrier slows down your creativity a lot. The second part of that problem was anytime I wanted to travel with the A7S III, again, I'd have to take it apart and find a way that I can bring the rigging if I wanted to rig it out to a full production rig when traveling. This led to having to carry more gear when traveling, which isn't always ideal. So that brings me to why I picked up the A7C Mark II. Before this came out, I was going back and forth on whether I wanted to pick up the A7 IV to have as a B camera to my A7S III for video, but also have as a photo camera. The A7 IV would also serve as my day-to-day content creation camera. The only problem that I had with it was that it was the exact same size as the A7S III. With that, carrying that camera everywhere can still be a little bit tiring. I really wanted something that was compact but still had those powerful features. I looked into the original A7C, but the specs didn't meet the quality that I wanted to achieve. During that search, at the perfect timing, Sony released the A7C Mark II. Now, when I first heard they released this camera, I was a little bit skeptical because I didn't hear any of the specs. I was worried that it was going to be a little bit similar to the first generation. But after diving deep into watching the videos of the creators who were sent it by Sony, I realized that this was literally the camera I was asking for. I literally wanted a compact A7 IV, and that's exactly what they gave us. I gave it a lot of thought, and I really took my time on why I would need this camera. Another problem I was having was I was losing touch with my passion for photography. I find it very difficult to create personal projects on a work camera. Now that doesn't mean that the A7S III has to be a work camera for everybody, but for me, that camera in my mind is for my work. It was a little hard to feel inspired to pick it up and go take photos whenever, especially when I have to take it apart just to go do that. I really love the Fuji systems for the reason that they are inspiring to pick up and want to take photos. I really wanted to get an X100V or an XE4, but that would limit me to only using it for photography. Now again, I got this camera to be a content creation camera, whether that's photo or video. So this camera out of the gate inspires me to want to pick it up and go take photos or go film something for my personal projects. That leads me to another reason why I picked up the silver version. I didn't want to have an all black camera that looked just like my work camera. That way I can have a clear distinction between my work camera and my personal camera. Now that's not to say that this camera can hold up for work as well. The fact of getting this camera is that it's also just really powerful. So to have this as a B camera to my A7S III for work is a smart move. A lot of people have complaints with the ergonomics or the single SD card slot, but they're looking at it from a work perspective, and for that I understand it. But for me, as a personal camera, none of that bothers me. I really wanted to take this camera anywhere, and with how lightweight and compact it is, I can do that. For example, I'm leaving to Puerto Rico tomorrow and I'm taking this camera with me. While I'm there, I'm gonna go out and take photos and videos and experiment with the camera more. Unfortunately, at the time of filming this video, Lightroom doesn't have the update out to where I can edit the photos, so all I can see is the raw images. I'm sure that update will come soon, and when it does, I will make sure to make a follow-up video to show you guys some of the raw versus edited photos out of this camera. So all in all, this camera is really dope. It's the perfect everyday camera in my opinion. I'm sure there's gonna be a few of you watching this video where you're on the fence about getting this camera, and to you I say, try it. Try it out. It's definitely worth it. With that being said, if you have any questions about this camera or want me to try something out with this camera, let me know down in the comments below. Make sure to also like and subscribe, and if you want to see more about this camera day to day, make sure to follow my Instagram, which is linked in my bio. I really hope you guys enjoyed this little unboxing and first impressions, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.